You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first, and we will begin by getting to Imani to understand what it is that they have been talking about as far as the gold for oil is concerned. As far as we know about the gold for oil program so far, beyond what Imani is sharing with us, we also know that the Office of Special Prosecutor has, taken some people on and is investigating them over the gold for oil matter. There are certain persons who were in the lead, so to speak, of the gold for oil matter who are presently being held. We know that the Office of Special Prosecutor has detained Dr. Sledge Nanaya Ododu, Chief Executive Officer of the Gold Ridge Refinery Limited, after he failed to meet his bail conditions. He's under investigations for suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses linked to the Minerals Income Investment Fund, particularly in the management of the gold trade program. It is alleged that over 94 million US dollars was lost to the state through Gold Ridge Refinery's failure to honor trade settlements under the Gold for Forex and Gold for Oil initiatives. That's on the part of the Office of Special Prosecutor. 94 million US dollars, not Ghana cedis. Convert that into Ghana cedis, and you see that this big push, we are looking for money, we don't even have 13 billion every month. We have more than enough, 13 billion every month. We have more than every year out of the 10 billion US dollars that we are looking for. In the last 5 years alone, the Auditor General's report says in excess of nearly 80 billion Ghana cedis has been stolen by these big people and people in public office. And at the Public Accounts Committee, we are treating them with kid gloves and laughing. We're destroying this country. The corruption is just too much. So Professor Dodu and your team doing the national ethics and anti-corruption action plan, there's a lot of work for you to do. We understand that several others, at least about 11 people, if you put aside Nanaya Ododu, the Chief Executive of Gold Ridge Refinery, about 11 other people are being investigated by the Office of Special Prosecutor over this gold for oil and gold for forex matters. So Imani did what it calls some forensic, checks, and found that we risk losing 7.2 billion in this matter. So we want to find out. That's Ghana cedis. We want to find out how exactly Imani comes to this conclusion and what should be done. They are calling for prosecutions and all of that, but what exactly are they seeking? Dr. Ishmael Yankson, chairman of the National Economic Dialogue, has seen Imani's work, and this is what he has to say from the work he has seen. He says, this is one of many such initiatives, often presented to be the answer to Ghana's poor economic performance, but in reality are meant to deceive Ghanaians and make it possible for individuals to enrich themselves while deepening Ghana's economic troubles. The revelations are frightening and clearly demonstrate how people in government have over the years connived with suspected foreign and local criminal agents to undermine Ghana's development efforts. The people, companies, institutions involved in the brazen attack on Ghana's future prosperity should not get away with murder. The government must demonstrate the resolve to deal ruthlessly with all those involved if the resetting Ghana agenda must succeed. Thank you. I'm going to begin with Bright Simmons, Honorary, Vice President of Imani Africa, to help us understand what they mean. Where did they come out with all of these claims? Bright, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Samson.
Right.
Can you hear me clearly?
Very, very clearly.
Wonderful. And I think with your permission, can I just make a presentation to explain what we mean by gold for oil, etc., because that will help a lot of your viewers understand when we start to explain the losses and the origin of the losses.
Exactly my invitation to you, sir.
Thank you so very much. We're always grateful for these opportunities. So what we're going to be doing now is describing in some detail, within a short amount of time that we have, how the Gold for Oil program was conceived, how it was supposed to be executed, how it eventually was executed, and how through that execution we had already predicted, materialized, and eventually led to losses that we believe amount to losses to the state, which requires additional investigation and possible prosecution of those found guilty, that's criminally guilty, if any. So first of all, let's start off with consumption of fuel in this country. Fuel, like other commodities, have to be refined to be used. So there's crude oil, which is oil that you take raw from the ground, then you refine it into different kinds of fuel used for different purposes. There are fuel that you use in your car, typically called gasoline, or in Ghana we tend to call it petrol. There is diesel, which is very similar. There is aviation fuel, which is used for planes, marine fuel used for ships and boats and things like that, etc., etc. Kerosene, all of these are fuels. On the screen, you see that our consumption of fuel has been increasing quite dramatically. I'm only showing you for gasoline. And you can see that the amount of gasoline we consume has more than quadrupled over this very short period from 2000s until now. But there are other types of fuels, and this what you see on the screen now is a breakdown of some of the different kinds of fuels that we use. And what has happened over the years is because of weak industrial policy or problems in our industrial policy, we are not able to refine these fuels in our own country. We have to import them. Or at the very least, we have to import the vast majority of the fuels that we consume, the tonnage of the fuels we consume. And the amount of money, the dollars that we were using, moved between $250 million to about $400 million because as consumption grew, the more money we needed to import. What is funny though is that as consumption grew, the economies of scale should have improved, making it more viable to produce refined fuel in our country. Because the more you consume, the bigger the output is, and therefore often the more efficient your refinery plants will be. Even though we have two major refining plants in the country, the oil refinery and Central, both of them are not functioning to their fullest and their optimal due to weak policy. And this is what I call catonomics, where we often are very clear what we want, and we define it often in political terms. So we want to, improve our ability to add value to our commodities. So we produce oil, we want to add value to it. This is something that every political actor in this country supports. This is something that everybody in this country kind of wants to happen. We want to reduce how much of our dollars that we use to import goods from outside, etc. However, when it comes to the how we actually do these things, somehow we disconnect the stated objective from the actual mechanics of getting the result. So we have this so-called economic problem that continues to bedevil us as a country. So in short, we've not been able to fix the oil refinery and Central, and therefore we keep importing fuel. Over the 2021-2022 period, as most of us know, the economic situation got pretty bad, and there was pressure on the currency, there was pressure on prices, so inflation was building up. The government wanted innovative ways to try and navigate those issues. And one of the suggestions was that because we have gold in our country, we could buy gold in cedis and then somehow use the gold to acquire oil, in which case we bypass the need for dollars. Because other than that, then you need dollars, about $400 million a month, to bring in the refined fuel. Why don't you simply take the gold that you have in your country, buy it in cedis, and then exchange it for oil, in which case you don't need the dollars. So the pressure on the currency, which builds up through the demand for dollars, will moderate. So that was the logic that was presented. The truth is, if you see the chart on the screen, I don't intend to go into any technical economics, but the general idea is for this to work, you need some kind of arbitrage. If gold is valuable, and gold is what we have, is valuable, and gold can be sold for dollars, but somehow you want to use gold to get oil, then the only reason you will do that, translating gold directly to oil is more beneficial than changing gold to dollars and then using dollars to buy oil. That would be the only logical reason why you will use a barter model or exchange your gold for oil. Because somehow the way that they are priced in the two different markets, the gold market in which you operate in your domestic market, and the oil market that applies where you want to get the oil, there is some dynamic between the two that allows you to exchange your gold for oil at a better rate than it would be if you went first selling your gold for dollars and then using the dollars to buy oil. So that would be the justification, the rationale for using a barter model instead of going to the market like everybody goes to the market. So the barter model will only make sense if somehow you've been able to establish that the exchange rate between gold that you get in your country and oil that you get in a specific market is more favorable than what you would get if you converted your gold to dollars and then use dollars to buy. This is just a quick explanation of basic commodity market, just so that when I refer to some of the issues, you understand what we mean. Typically, you have what we call the spot market, which is what you the market where you buy immediately and you are settled immediately. So I have money, I want to buy oil. I pay for the price as it prevails. Then I hand over the money in the settlement and I collect my oil. So that would be a spot market. There are also what we call the futures market, where you are buying, even though you are making commitments today, the oil that you are buying is not to be delivered today, it's delivered in the future. And therefore, there's a forecast future price. And then you have a commodity supplier, you have a commodity demander, somebody who wants the commodity, etc. And then in between, you have people that often try to arbitrage between the spot market and the futures market. This is just a rough, quick, simple explanation because I'll refer to that again later on. Another thing you also have to know about the transactions that often, if you're doing a commodity transaction, if you're changing oil to gold, gold to oil, things like that, you will often need brokers. You are doing a swap. Now, those brokers may be on the buy side or the sell side. It can get really complicated. We don't want to go into all of that. But bear in mind that sometimes, if you want gold, somebody has oil, you have gold, and you want to bridge a trade. It's not all the time that there's an alignment in terms of who needs what when. So there are people that will often intermediate because they have storage capacity, they have distribution capacity, etc., who can play a role in making the match happen. And that's the difference between money and commodities, right? Because in money, I can just take your money, even when I don't need the money immediately, and I can use it whenever I want. With commodities, let's say you have an oil refinery and I have gold. When you need the gold and when I need the oil, the timing may not match. There could be timing mismatch, so many other mismatches. So often, a whole bunch of intermediaries develop to try and smooth the markets and create parity of need. And this is why this becomes interesting. So going back to the point again, for gold, for oil to make sense, you need to start to have another exchange rate separate from monetary exchange rates. And this will be the exchange rate between two commodities that you are interested in, gold and oil. So you build an exchange rate between gold and oil, and then you're able to compare it with the other alternative exchange rate, which is the gold in cedis, which implies a cedi to dollars, because if you sell your gold to get dollars, you have a particular exchange rate you're using. And then the other exchange rate, which will be oil to dollars, right? So you have two different exchange rates in play. So what you are trying to do with gold for oil is you're trying to bypass those two other exchange rates. You don't want to care about how much oil is sold in dollars and how much gold is sold in dollars. You want to immediately connect gold to oil, and you are bypassing those two other exchange rates because you think somehow you can get it at a more favorable rate if you did the direct transaction. So now that I've taken the challenge is what I've tried to explain is that often because the timing there's a mismatch in the timing, etc., you end up having multiple actors involved because you have one broker in between another broker, etc. Sometimes it's also a matter of volume. Let's say the person that you are trying to exchange your gold for oil with, they have a certain quantity of gold they need for a particular period, and they then have to aggregate on their side so that they can get more demand to match the amount of oil that you want supplied, etc. So these can lead to complicated multilateral arrangements as well. In short, you are often in a barter arrangement looking at the pros and cons. Whether or not you are conserving capital versus whether or not you are getting the right amount of value, whether or not you have a relationship that allow you to get something at a better price than the open market, or if because of tax exemptions and things like that, it's much better to do an exchange than to do a direct trade. So there are two key issues we have to bear in mind. One of them is that there are transparent markets in oil, in gold, and in those transparent markets, typically we are dealing with cash. I want to sell my gold. I go to a transparent market like the London Bullion Market, LBMA, or Shanghai COMEX, any of these international markets. And there are so many buyers and sellers. So we have what we call price discovery. The prices are very well known, very well transparent, and they are often highly liquid markets. If you want oil, they are the same. There's the same situation. You go to oil markets. Rotterdam is a major oil market for refined oil. Antwerp, there are refined commodity markets also in Chicago, etc. You go there, you can buy as much oil as you want. In this case, it's refined fuel. You can buy as much refined fuel as you want. And based on that dynamic, there are indices like Platts, Argus, and the rest, which transparently broadcast the price to everybody. Now, if you decide that those two kind of dynamics, those two markets don't suit you, the oil market as is transparently known, the gold market is transparently known, because for some reason you can trade directly, then you come into a situation where, as we are going to try and prove now, you have to show that the results that you got was better than what you would have got if you did in the open market. In the case of gold for oil, eventually what we learned is that there was actually no barter. That's the most critical discovery. And getting dollars. So it wasn't as if there was a refinery that had refined fuel to sell to us that wanted gold for some other reason, and we're brokering that gold to. It turns out that what happened is we were selling the gold to some intermediaries, getting dollars, and using those dollars to buy refined fuel on behalf of BOST. So there were traders who would sell oil to refined fuel to BOST, like gasoline and diesel and the rest, and they were receiving the dollars. So ultimately, the effect of the whole arrangement was that BOST became a major player in importing of fuels and displaced some of the private importers. Ultimately, I think it got about 30% of the market, that's approximately, down from what it used to enjoy before gold for oil came in. So the effect of gold for oil primarily was to increase BOST's market share. Remember though that if we wanted to do that, we could simply have just provided dollars to BOST on a loan basis and got BOST to import oil. I mean, if that's what we really wanted. So it's not as if we wanted to support BOST and make BOST a more effective player, we need to do gold for oil. I'm just explaining that one of the effects of gold for oil was that BOST, which was a state-owned distributor, acquired greater market share. Okay. Now, here is the problem. You got gold, which you are buying in cedis, and you want to get oil, which is sold in dollars, right? You end up still doing what you're doing anyway. The difference here, though, is that we don't really know who you are trading the gold with to get the dollars and who you are brokering with in order for the oil in its refined form to be delivered to BOST. So you had all these brokers that emerged, and I've listed some of them: Alpha Stream, StoneX, Abu Dhabi Capitalist Partners, that in the beginning were relatively well understood because we did investigations and we discovered who some of these players were. But even so, these were not disclosed publicly. Not publicly disclosed who these intermediaries were. But then things got worse. As the process unfolded, it became impossible for us to get leaks anymore to know who they were actually dealing with. So on the side of the aggregation, who was the Bank of Ghana using to buy the gold in cedis? What was the forex rate that they were applying? Because remember that gold has an international market. So even if I'm selling to you in Ghana, I have my mind that I can sell it internationally, and therefore there's a certain rate that I'm trying to use. And then what was the actual price that they were paying? None of this information was ever publicly disclosed. So they would do a deal in Ghana, they would buy the gold from aggregators, and then sometimes they would finance the aggregators. So that's where these gold rich issues come in. They will give money in advance to the aggregator to go and buy the gold and bring it to them in cities. And then when they get the gold, they have to send it to somebody else through another series of intermediaries to get the realized dollar. And then when they get the dollars, they then have to use the dollars to buy the fuel and bring it in. In each of these instances, there were no public disclosures of who these actors were, who was aggregating the gold on the ground, who was eventually bearing the risk of any losses that arise if you buy the gold at a certain price and the price moves in the international market in a way that you can't realize the dollar value. All those challenges arise from lack of transparency, is the opacity. That's what delivered those problems. So there are theoretical risks that we knew, which we warned about. And those theoretical risks include the fact that if you give money to someone to go and buy gold for you, the person may bring you less gold than you anticipated. The gold that the person brought to you, the gold content, because what you get is what you call DOR, which is a kind of gold that is refined to a certain point. The gold that is sold in the international market is often refined to 99.9%, etc. What you get from buying in the market in Ghana may be 90% or even less, or 92% or whatever. So due to all those dynamics, the prices may change and may shift. All of those dynamics require transparency. Now, if you miss, it's a loss. So this myth issue we are talking about is a similar problem, where money was given to some party to go and get gold on behalf of meth, and over time it was realized that somehow, because of all these, instabilities in the way that the regime was set up, you accumulate loss over time, which ordinarily you shouldn't, because these are very mature markets. How did we get our loss numbers that we've put out? It's a very simple matter. We know the realized losses. The Bank of Ghana has already told us about the foreign exchange losses. And those foreign exchange losses arise simply because you buy the gold in cedis at a certain rate, you are exporting the gold and you are realizing dollar in a certain rate, etc. And you eventually, those rates may move against you and you get a realized forex loss. There are also issues around the intertemporal, what we call it the intertemporal. The gold price are moving in a certain direction and you have the opportunity to accumulate reserves over time. So if you don't accumulate resource and instead you commit to certain prices, and therefore because you want to buy oil through this very murky process and the rest, you're not able to accumulate the reserves as a bank. So you don't benefit from the increase in prices in the gold price that you will have got if you were accumulating your reserves. There are also issues around the hedging and the basis risk that we've investigated. There are issues around import premia, etc. If you get involved in oil trading, there are so many of these different cost elements where if you do a counterfactual analysis, that's if the Bank of Ghana had not done that, what would have been the realized gain or loss? So we have just done a counterfactual analysis. And from 2.14 billion established by the Bank of Ghana itself, we've looked at all the other situations in which the Bank of Ghana could have avoided losses or made gains and which it didn't. And so based on that accumulation, we've come to the 7.2 billion number. Remember that number is an analytical number, because nobody really knows today what the full losses are. The engaged, reputable and auditing companies to go through everything and come up with a final number. So what Imani is doing is providing with a model that gives you a sense of how much loss could have been accumulated based on counterfactual analysis if we had done this other than that. And you can also use the same to query consumer welfare. So if, for instance, we hadn't done gold for oil, could that have led to, for instance, higher prices at the pump, or could that have led to a pressure on our currency, etc.? And the argument we've made is that neither case is true, because number one, we know for sure that they were not directly converting the gold for oil, right? They still went to get dollars anyway. And so they could simply have sold the gold, acquired the dollars, given it to the commercial banks or the BDCs through their auction process, as they already do as a central bank, because these BDCs were already supplying 70% anyway, even during gold for oil. So given all those facts, they will have done all of those issues, and then the pricing dynamics in the market will not have changed. In fact, if you apply our counterfactual analysis and you look at, okay, how much dollar would have gone into the market if the BOG had been more transparent in the way that it did this and passed the dollars through an auction process, the effect is that actually we may have had slightly lower oil prices during gold for slightly lower fuel prices during the gold for oil phase than we eventually did. So in effect, neither of the benefits were materialized. And the reason the benefit didn't materialize is very simple. The gold market and the oil market are highly mature markets. There's very little creativity you can apply as a small country in Africa to somehow try and game that market.
Okay.
If you want to sell your gold, sell your gold. If you want to go and buy oil, go and buy my oil. Buy them in transparent markets where you have multiple buyers and multiple sellers, and you get the best price discovery. So that's basically the analysis that Imani has done. Right. I hope this was clear.
Right. It was useful, but help me do this quickly. You say there was absolutely nothing innovative about the Gold for Oil program. This country needs about $4 billion every year for refined fuel imports. We had gold. There's been good price for gold. It is soaring. We are told even today that it's likely to end at about 4,000 per ounce, or is it ton in the per ounce by December.
Per troy ounce.
Yes. So there's nothing innovative about it. What do you think was the rationale? Why did we do it?
What was sold to us is not what was done. You see, if somehow the government have found a set of market conditions that allows to exchange gold directly for oil in a way that was more favorable than selling the gold for dollars and then buying the oil, then that would have been innovative, because that would be some kind of innovative instrument, maybe some kind of synthetic financial instrument with multiple hedge points, optionals, etc., etc. There are a lot of financial engineering that goes on in the world. And then maybe you find certain people that for some reason, they don't want to use the international gold market. They want to buy the gold directly for
Let me ask this question again. What is your suspicion? Because if by doing this, we have fuel prices at a rate which could have been lower, according to your analysis, what is your suspicion why this was done?
My point is that the eventual beneficiaries of this scheme were the brokers and the middlemen. The only person who got any benefit are the people that were in the middle, doing the monetization, that were in the middle, enabling the shipment of the fuel to bust, etc. They are the ones who benefited. Nobody else benefited. Ghana could simply have said, okay, we have our domestic gold purchasing program. We are buying gold in cities. We've sold the gold on the international markets at the current price. That money is in our reserves. We've auctioned dollars to BDCs who import the fuel. Because of that auction, there's more availability of dollars. That would have all been entirely transparent, and within the current policy set. Why did they need to embed middlemen that they didn't disclose at multiple levels of this program, when eventually, as we've now found out, they were still selling the gold for dollars and buying oil in dollars? What then was the point? So the only benefit to anyone is the brokers and the intermediaries, Alpha Stream and the others we don't know, and people like Goldridge or companies like Goldridge that have made a lot of money purporting to intermediate two markets that are supremely mature, and we don't need any intermediaries. It was done to enrich the intermediaries, is what I'm saying.
Right. Someone will ask what is new about that kind of model of business in Ghana. Because even if the Ministry of Agric was looking to buy toothpick, it won't go by it itself. It will find a middleman, so the middleman will benefit, and you will find later that this middleman is connected to some political something, and they're going to make money to fund some party. So this is not new. So what's strange about it?
The beautiful thing about your analogy is that imagine that we said we don't produce enough fertilizers in Ghana because our industrial policy has failed. So the likes of Bluefet and the rest are not producing enough fertilizer. We need to import fertilizer, right? And then the Ministry of Agriculture said, you know what? The way we are going to do it is that we are going to do rice fertilizer, right? We will get some people to go and buy rice in Ghana, and then we will go to Egypt or somewhere else, and we will exchange the rice for fertilizer. What would be the first thing that comes to your mind if they make such a proposal? Your first question you ask yourself is, why don't simply sell the rice, get the money and buy the fertilizer? Unless they can prove to you that somehow they have an effective means, because somehow there is someone that will, for some reason, rather than buy rice on the international market at a certain price, will like Ghana rice for some reason. Maybe there's something peculiar about Ghana rice. So if this was the only channel they will get a Ghana rice, then they will give you fertilizer at a rate that was better than if you try to buy fertilizer on the international market. So you give them the rice and you get fertilizer at a better rate overall.
Right.
In this case, we went in a different way, right? We went in the same way that I've just described, but it didn't make sense in the sense that we sold the gold for dollars, but at a rates that are not transparent, through brokers that are unknown, except those of us that do investigation. And then eventually we got the dollars and then went through the same route to get the fuel and bring it to Ghana, benefiting multiple middlemen and brokers in the chain. And our argument is that the only reason anyone wanted to do this was because they wanted a channel through which they could benefit and enrich some intermediaries.
Right.
And our argument is the country's resources cannot be put at the disposal of such schemes.
Right.
We cannot have a country where politicians...
That's understood. That's understood. My last but one question to you before I bring in Kojopoku is this one. That's, you know, right, we live in a crazy country, don't we? We go and cut down trees that have survived for decades in order to plant new trees. And when we plant the new trees, we don't take care of them and then they die. So the old ones that were surviving, we have cut them down. You remember? Yeah. You remember this project?
I remember it very well.
Thank you very much. This is what we do in this country.
So, Menace investigation, Menace investigation.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, my question is, these 7.2 billion Ghana cedis, its potential loss, you are not saying it is lost.
Yes, I think I made that very clear that the losses that we are describing are realized losses that have been confirmed by the Bank of Ghana, plus counterfactual losses. So it's an analytical point. It establishes the losses that we know for sure, and then it says that based on the way they did it, if they have done it in another fashion which was more transparent, and therefore the Bank of Ghana have built its reserves, you know, the auction market had worked as it normally works, etc., the ultimate outcome will have led to certain gains and certain avoided losses. And if you add all of that together, there's a potential that you could have made 7.2 billion cedi loss. Of course, we are waiting for that's why we did what we did. We are waiting for the audits that are going on the civil side, which is basically the Bank of Ghana audits and stuff like that. And also we are urging that forensic audits current, be instituted. And we know the OSP is not doing forensic losses, for instance, he's doing criminal prosecutions and investigations. So that's a different matter. But we're asking also for forensic audits. Every single intermediary, we know some of them because we've done investigations, but we are not authorities. They are authorities. They should investigate every single player in that particular scheme, every single trade in that particular scheme, and then look at the implied foreign exchange rate, etc. Because our analysis of the implied foreign exchange rate, our analysis of the implied premium, all of that has led us to this conclusion of losses.
Right.
But we are not a state auditing agency.
Right. I need a very quick...
Somebody else has to do the work.
I need some 30 seconds on this. You speak about tax exemptions. Did you find that these tax exemptions were granted by Parliament in the first place?
Well, the tax exemptions element of it, I don't want to delve into it too much because there are some additional work that is ongoing in that respect. Just as I also don't want to delve into the specific criminal liability attached to specific individuals and the rest because of the petition.
Okay.
So for that, I think you should bear with me. I will hold on to that for a while.
Right.
Because you know that there are already tax exemption matters that have eventually graduated into criminal liability for some people in this country. So, I'm
bringing on Kojopoku now, and he says that your document is as frivolous as it comes because, there is no name on it, no company or individual name is found on the document. And his simple question he's been asking all week is, first, that you put 7.2 billion cedis as the potential loss due to lack of reconciliation, and his concern is that this document, as you can see, the source document itself does not have such a figure on it, and again, there is no name to that document. Kojo Poku, thank you very much. He's Executive Director, Institute for Energy Policy and Research, and he's a member of the MPP communication team. I thought that you would think that this is fodder. This is important to go through, but I've heard you and others simply just rubbish it.
No, we've never rubbished it. Good morning, Samson, and good morning to Bright and all your panel and your viewers. We have never rubbished anything. I mean, we hold things to strict accountability and proof. That is what this country should basically strive to do. And Samson, before I continue, let me make a quick correction. Please, Sledge, that MIF program is not good for oil. I don't know why anybody wants to now cross the two. MIF had their own gold program that they were doing. If there are problems with that program to do with MIF, please, I'm repeating this on authority. That program was not part of Gold for Oil. And I hope you correct that, because that's Imani keeps trying to link the two, to try to say that people involved in Gold for Oil are being held by OSP. Sledge did not partake in Gold for Oil. Imani, so I really hope that we make that clear.
Imani didn't do that. I'm the one who did that because I have information.
Well,
I know for a fact. Hold on. I know for a fact that there are 4 areas under MIF that the OSP is looking at: the gold trade, gold for oil, equity investment, Ejapa transactions, and purchase of land. And a number of people who are very popular in this country will come in due course, as I understand it. But I'm the one who is saying the 12 people, the 12 people who are being investigated, the 12 people who are being investigated by OSP and who have actually been arrested, questioned and granted bail, except Sledge, who couldn't fulfill his bail conditions and was detained. These are the matters that are attracting the OSP's attention. But let's speak to it about this particular one by the Imani.
Let me also make another point. And clearly, you've held right to that proof, and he's admitted that 7.2 that they put out there is a counterfactual. The other word for counterfactual is phantom. It is not a loss. The only loss that has been recorded on paper by Bank of Ghana is 2.14 billion cedis, which I have a document from Bank of Ghana I've shared with you, Samson, for basically to talk about it. But you know what? Since Bright did his beautiful presentation, for me, I cannot do that because the document I'm going to rely on is basically documents that are subject to confidentiality. So it will be difficult for me to put those documents in a slide and share with the public. But I will read contents of those documents as I go along in my presentation. Let me make this quick fact. I want to now dwell on 3 areas. One is to let everybody watching and Bright, Imani, and everybody know that the Gold for Oil, everybody that took part in Gold for Oil went through proper due diligence. Bank of Ghana undertook what is called a KYC, and those companies were also sent to the FIC, the Financial Intelligence Center, for them to basically screen these companies. There are 2 letters that I would basically share with the public, the contents of it, right? One where Bank of Ghana rejected the company, and one that Bank of Ghana accepted the company when Bank of Ghana did their due diligence. Now, the second part will be the process by which the Gold for Oil processes went through from BOST to MPA to Ministry of Energy, then to the Bank of Ghana. Then the third part will be to discuss the environmental the idea of people trying to pollute the public with certain ideas that a program that basically came on board reduced premium from $150 to $80 to $50 from $50 to $80 was a bad program. These premiums we talk about are premiums that affect you and I, our pocket. But let me go on to discuss the due diligence that happened. Look, when the government, through cabinet, came up with Gold for Oil, it was not a program. They seemed to be obsessed with BOST. My brother Wright said that this program was done on behalf of BOST. No, it was never done on behalf of BOST. Those that ran the program was MPA, Ministry of Energy, and Bank of Ghana. BOST was only an agency of Gold for Oil. Anytime BOST wanted to do anything, BOST have to write through the necessary channels to get approvals. But let me now start off by reading you one letter. There is a company that, in that document that I call frivolous, a company called Cibet DMCC. Okay? When you look at, there's a document that's from Bank of Ghana on the, okay, there's a document from the Bank of Ghana. I'll give you the date. On the April 12, 2024, Bank of Ghana wrote, letter of engagement, onboarding Cibet DMMC onto the gold for oil. The above subject refers, please. We are pleased to inform you that Cibet DMCC has been successfully screened for anti-money laundering and combating and financial terrorism with the necessary know your client KYC conducted and can be onboarded as a fuel supplier under the gold for oil. Now, this is a company that also got approval from the FIC that they can be dealt with, because the FIC screened them among other companies so that they can be, and anybody who cares to know, my brother Kojo Chimbwafo has all the files in FIC, they can go and ask them. Now, let me give you another letter, which is strange to know that there's a company called Goldstream Global. Now, Goldstream Global, recently, on the September, some date in September, right? 9th September 2025, Gold Board, this current Gold Board, have signed a $1 billion investment deal with Goldstream Global. It will surprise you that Goldstream Global was turned down by Bank of Ghana when they did their KYC, when they wanted to be part of the gold for oil. Now, I'll give you on August 8, 2024, Bank of Ghana wrote to BOST saying that the bank has reviewed the request from your institution on onboarding Goldstream Global as a fuel supplier under the G4O. After careful consideration, the bank does not recommend Goldstream Global as a supplier under the gold for oil. This same Goldstream Global today, Gold Board under the NDC has signed a $1 billion contract with them. But under the gold for oil, Bank of Ghana rejected them. So, look, this will tell you that there was a process in place where some people were subject to proper due diligence of Bank of Ghana and proper due diligence by FIC. Now, when the company is onboarded and they've been agreed to supply, what they do is that, look, as any other international oil trading company does, and in that document, they talk about people, single sourcing and all these things. Look, companies that supply products into Ghana, nobody does due diligence on them because it is a private transaction. Bulk distribution companies goes around to find their suppliers. I see that document talks about Netwise. Netwise today is supplying products into the market for BDCs. The way our downstream works, before a product enters our market, before a ship berths at the port, the ownership of that product has been transferred to a Ghanaian company, which is a BDC. So the issue of whether companies can perform or not perform is a purely private and commercial. And BOST, yes, companies were writing to BOST to be part for gold for oil, but BOST on their own never decided who becomes part for gold for oil. They write to the Ministry of Energy, to the Bank of Ghana, for Bank of Ghana to now admit, as I have now read to you in these documents. When these companies have been onboarded and they send their products into the country, the product comes in. There are charges that BOST charge for the rack rate, the unloading, the storage, and all those things, right? BOST in gold for oil was only earning a commission. Now they also charge for the storage and the racking and all those things. So what happens? The internal memos for BOST will now be generated for payment. So the GM4 trade will raise an internal memo. And I said it's unfortunate that because of confidentiality, I can't share some of these official documents online on the screen. But one of the things that happens is that when this document is sent, BOST now writes to NPA. NPA is the authority who regulates, who set the pricing and know how this thing works. Now, let me share an interesting letter and the contents with you so that you understand the role that NPA played in gold for oil. On the July 2nd, 2024, there was a letter that was written from BOST to MPA, and MPA was writing to the Minister of Energy. This is when, after BOST have submitted receipts and all the documents to MPA for payment. This is a letter that MPA wrote to the Bank of Ghana. Wrote to the Minister of Energy at the time. Request for payment to GMP Energy, Cyber DMCC, Netwise, and Polypro Trading. Now, it goes on to say that the National Petroleum Authority has received for request for payment from BOST, for payment to be made to these companies. The authority has reviewed the invoices and other documents submitted by BOST for each cargo, made the following observation. Now listen to this. There were no variation in the authority computation of the amount owed to Polypro. Now, authority computed the amount for gasoline supplied by Seabed, and they were higher than the invoice amount by $366. Then they go on to now say that they've done the computation for Netwise and they do not find any variation. Then MPA will put their recommendation. This is MPA's recommendation. MPA says that in view of the above, the authority hereby recommend the following: payment of this amount to be made to Polypro, payment of this amount to be made to Cybet, payment of this amount to be made to GMP Energy, and payment of this amount to be made to Netwise Petroleum. Then this letter goes to the Minister of Energy. Then the Minister of Energy now also does his internal investigation on what has been submitted by MPA before they write to MP. They write to the Bank of Ghana for Bank of Ghana to pay these companies. Now, the accounts that were held at CBG was only a view only for reconciliation. Who had control? How payments were made? How everything was done by Bank of Ghana. The head of Bank of Ghana of this program at that time was our own brother, Zachary Mumuni, who is today the first deputy Bank of Ghana. So I don't get this whole thing where somebody wants to make it look like there is this opacity that they use. A government program that has 3 institutions that went through: MPA, Ministry of Energy, and Bank of Ghana.
What was so special about this that when you needed gold rate, you needed to get them by sole sourcing?
Gold rate was not part of Bank of Ghana program. I have told you over and over. Gold rate was not part of the Bank of Ghana program. MIF is not the same as gold for oil. And I don't know why you don't want to understand that.
You have your information, I have my information, and I can tell you.
My brother, I am telling you that gold rate, you can double check that. I am telling you, authority, that gold rate was not authorized by Bank of Ghana.
Talking. Let me also talk some.
Gold for oil.
Thank you. I've heard you, but I'm telling you on authority that gold for oil, gold trade was eventually at the hub of MIF. Whether some will say it was imposed on them by the finance ministry or not, that's not the important thing.
Samson, MIF is not part of the gold for oil. Gold for oil had 3 institutions, 4 institutions: Bank of Ghana, MPA, Ministry of Energy, and BOST. MIF was not part.
Thank you.
I don't know where you get this MIF thing from. You keep pushing this thing. I'm telling you, it's not true, and you keep pushing it.
Kojo, you need to relax about this. I want us to deal with the facts. In fact, we are wrapping up. But you hold on.
No, hold on. You are stating something. I'm telling you it's not true, but you want to keep pushing it.
Yes, when you give an information, you don't force me to take it. Okay? I recognize the information you have given. Our viewers have heard. So thank you for that. Yes, Bright, quickly, and I need to wrap up on this. Yeah.
No, I'm not done.
No, hold on. Could you hold on?
Please, I'm not done.
Could you hold on?
Right, 1 hour on
Could you, I'm moderating this program. I'm the one moderating this program. I'm not giving you 1 hour.
What?
Bright was not giving 1 hour.
To go through
Bright was not giving 1 hour, and I'm not giving you equal time. Hold on. Bright, let's hear you.
But that was the point. All the things that
please, production, can you cut Kojo off if you will not listen to me? Okay, Bright, let's hear you.
Force the point you've made. This is on the MIF website, the Minerals Income Investment Fund website.
Thank you.
And when you look at that screen, For some reason, it's not showing on my side anymore. I don't know if you still see it on your side.
You go ahead and make the points.
Sorry?
Go ahead and make the points.
If you look at the MIF website, MIF is very emphatic about the fact that it took part in gold for oil.
Kojo doesn't know. Kojo doesn't know, but he won't take his time and listen. You know?
Well, I'm telling you that it's not true. I don't know which gold for oil that MIF took part in. It's not true.
So MIF says that this is what MIF itself says. MIF commenced the operationalization of the gold trade program in August 2023. The fund's strategic goal is to integrate investments along the whole value chain of commodities invested in. MIF, through its gold trade desk, has injected over $700 million into the economy. Trade has attracted total inflows of $719 million into the Ghanaian economy between August 2023 and July 2024 through its gold trade desk. And here is what MIF has traded foreign exchange amounting to $531 million over the period with the bulk distribution companies in support of the government's Gold for Oil program.
Thank you.
So what MIF is telling everybody is that it spent $531 million as part of Gold for Oil program, as part of Gold for Oil, and that settles it.
All right.
Because
no, it does not. No, it does not settle it. Because you see why it does not settle it. Let me explain why it doesn't settle it.
$531 million on.
Let me explain why it doesn't settle it.
Kojo, hold on. Kojo, hold on. For now, we don't need your explanation on what MIF is saying, but you hold on.
Exactly. MIF itself has made it very clear that they spent more than $530 million. And I think our viewers need to be told the facts. The second point is that all we are saying is if they wanted to involve the use of forex that is gained from gold in Ghana in bringing in oil, they could have done that directly. You don't need to have these brokers and
that point has been made. That point has been made.
You can sell your gold easily.
Well, why are you giving my time to try to repeat himself?
It's not your time. I determine what time is, how the time is used.
Yeah, but Bright is back on repeating himself.
It's not your time. Can you keep quiet and listen to him a bit, please? Respectfully. Can you? Yes, Bright, finish up.
Yes, I'm wrapping up. So what is important for your viewers to understand is that we've done serious investigations that have implicated specific government officials, specific companies, and that information in the dossier has been forwarded to the authorities for additional investigation. So this is not something that is phantom. This is not something that is, basically figments of our imagination. You, Samson, yourself have had some privilege access to certain aspects of the investigation, and you know for sure that these are very serious matters that the country ought to pay the greatest of attention to. Okay. I'm sure I can say that on your behalf.
Right. Thank you very much. And we know that you have to be off and going. We actually also are wrapping up here so that we can come to one of the biggest other issue, the Galamsey issue. Yes, Kojo, what's the point you need to finish up on? Let's hear you.
Okay, so let me quickly make this. There are two legs for Gold for Oil. There is the Bank of Ghana program of gold acquisition, which in Bright's presentation, he talks about the acquisition of gold through PMMC and then going into the communities to buy gold to now come in. MIF, as I am trying to explain to you, if MIF provided gold as they claim on their website, what I am telling you is that in the chain of bringing in petroleum products, in the payment for these petroleum products which were done by Bank of Ghana, in that value chain, there is no MIF. The program that involved bust, there is no MIF. If Bank of Ghana had a separate arrangement with MIF to be part of some other program, I do not have that information. Let's keep that clear. But there is a program that involves BOST, MPA, Ministry of Energy, and Bank of Ghana. That program did not involve MIF. Now let me quickly run. Let me quickly run.
This is what we are opposed to. This mechanism where it's not clear.
Let me quickly run up. Look. If somebody sits in their office and they say murkiness, opaqueness, use words like that, and if the trail of documentation, which they have not spoken to anybody, Imani have not spoken to nobody from MIF. Imani has not spoken to, Imani has not spoken to nobody from MPA. Imani, please, let me
Hello, Kojo. Kojo, you have already described a counterfactual analysis as phantom analysis.
Exactly.
And that was
exactly.
that was a wrong premise to start. You don't think so?
Exactly.
Counterfactual analysis. Imani has engaged with the documentation involved in this. And you call that phantom analysis?
Samson, if you start off by creating a certain scenario that $7.2 billion is lost, and you come and say that it's a counterfactual.
They didn't say that. They said there is the risk.
Yes, I said it inside.
There's a risk. They didn't say it's lost.
He said it's counterfactual.
Yes, counterfactual.
Right, said it's counterfactual.
But counterfactual doesn't mean phantom.
But it is. What does it mean? Go to Oxford Dictionary. What does it mean? It doesn't exist.
No,
counterfactual doesn't exist. It does not exist. It's phantom.
But financial analysis or economic analysis, when you say counterfactual, you are not talking about a phantom. You're using documents that you are familiar with, that you have used to produce a certain result. Somebody is using the same documents to also come to a different conclusion. That's the point.
No, my point I'm trying to get across to you is that when you go into the dictionary and look at the meaning for counterfactual, what it means in dictionary is that something that does not exist.
Finish your point. Finish your point, and let's go.
Let me write. Please stop it.
So why are you so agitated if some society is trying to bring transparency? You should be supporting.
I am with you on that. I am with you on that. We want
to objection if we are trying to bring transparency.
Let me land. Please let me land. Samson, you see, people make it look like some of us are against the investigation everybody's calling for. Everybody can do investigation because, like I said earlier, Imani has not spoken to NPA. Imani has not spoken to Bank of Ghana. Imani has not spoken to BOSS. Let me finish my point right, please. Imani has not spoken to any of these institutions. If anybody wants to do a proper investigation, you are more welcome to go to the FIC, to go to Bank of Ghana, to go to BOG. You will find all the files neatly packed for you to look at. Now,
Samson,
if somebody, my brother, let me speak. When you speak, I didn't speak. Please.
Manny, it's not correct. Where do you think our whistleblowers come from?
Samson, can I speak? Can you ask him whether I can speak? He spent 1 hour, I didn't utter a word. Now, when you have an institution that wants to put a document out there to the public, what we would expect Imani to do was to, one, have a document that has a name, has somebody's document that is been signed. That document they want to put out there talks about 1.2, 1.5 losses. It's debatable. All of a sudden, we are seeing something like, all of a sudden, we are seeing micro-feedback and sterilization and financing as a probable accounting thing that can be lost. The most important thing I want the viewer to understand is that Gold for Oil was a good program. If people feel that actors of Gold for Oil did something wrong, by all means, the institutions should investigate and prosecute where they have the evidence to prosecute. But let's not sum up the whole program. People who are today in high position offices who supervise Gold for Oil, we try to impugn their integrity by trying to say things that we do not even understand ourselves. So the point is that let's not make it look like something that was done. Everybody has an opinion on why they think something should be done.
I think your point is made. I think your point is made.
Let me land on this.
Thank you. You've been landing and never landing. I need to stop.
Let me land on this.
Thank you, gentlemen. The two of you. Thank you very much.
Right.
He made certain allegations about Imani that I declare that we didn't speak to anyone. That's not correct.
I know that is not a fact, and we can ignore that because we know that Imani spoke to several people who are connected with this.
They have not spoken to anybody. They have not spoken to anybody.
They have spoken to many people. Thank you all, gentlemen, for making time to be with us. This is Newsfile, and we have been talking about the Gold for Oil program, which Imani's counterfactual analysis shows that there is a risk of a loss of 7.2 billion, and they are asking for a number of things to be done to confirm what they have found out about the program. As a matter of fact, by the analysis, they come to the conclusion that there was nothing innovative about it. It was almost unnecessary, and that without it, fuel prices may have been a little less than what we had at the time it was introduced. Bottom line, the gold that was being used for the purpose could actually have been sold and the money taken and given to the Bank of Ghana or the banks or the BDCs directly to do the purchases. The country annually requires about 4 billion to purchase refined fuel, and the BDCs have been doing this all the time. But this time, as far as Imani's analysis go, it was done to benefit the middlemen in a very opaque system. Sole-sourced individuals giving contracts for which there's no benefit to us, but they were benefiting. And as you heard Kojo Poku, he denies all of these claims, says they are phantom, and what Imani is saying should be treated with contempt, so to speak. I take a break on a point where my little dictionary tells me about counterfactual analysis and construct, that these scenarios depend on credible, data-driven models of what might have happened in the absence of a specific event, policy, or decision. And by comparing these scenarios to actual outcomes, they estimate the true effect of that event or decision. Right. We take a break. When we return, Galamsey. The president met with the CSOs. He showed us enormous efforts, great efforts. The CSOs are asking for results. There are some who insist that he should not wait for national security advice to declare a state of emergency. Whilst they feel a little okay with what he's told them, some still believe that a state of emergency is not negotiable. We'll be right back.
Elephants in the room was not mentioned. You heard the Attorney General talk only about Akontamai. The Attorney General.
You're welcome back. So we are moving to the Galamsey matter. But in the meantime, I'm getting credible information from the Bank of Ghana that suggests that what MIF has put out on its own website is not credible. So I'm in a difficult situation. I don't know what to do with the information. That MIF says it does something, and those who have run the gold for oil, and we know the central place where it was run from was the Bank of Ghana, then say MIF's information is inaccurate. But that information is sitting on MIF's website. In fact, investigators who are doing this, work will confirm that MIF is in there. Anyway, we'll end it here. My next set of guests have joined me. Inus Hussaini was here earlier. Inus Hussaini is former MP Tamale Central and former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Kofi Bento is lawyer, Vice President Imani Africa. I call him the rebel. Dennis Miracles Abuaji, Director of Communications of the Bamia campaign that many of you are in love with, but you don't want to confess. They came on my page and said, what is Dennis coming to do? What is he coming to do? And I should get him out of the show. Dr. Ekpo Enyima Aka is food systems toxicology, nutrition and health risk assessment expert at the University of Education, Winneba. That's where he teaches. And Major Dr. Ebenezer Kwachi Ajiman, retired, is security risk and leadership expert. They're going to tell us, Ekpo is going to make a very compelling argument about how Galamsey, you may have heard the stories about how it has polluted our waters, destroyed our farm, produce, and so on. But we take you to another level to show you, if you thought that you were exempt, you are joking. You are poisoned. And he makes the forceful point that every ingredient needed for a state of emergency to be triggered, we are there. And then Major Retired Ebenezer Kwache Ajman will tell us the security risk we face. Mr. President, if the national security people are not telling you, they may be misleading you. That's what he's going to show you. The security risks that we face, that this thing, the security implications are just too dire, not only for Ghana, but transnational. He'll show you the evidence why we must do more than we currently are doing. So thank you for joining us. And we will do a little beyond the time you are familiar with us. Let's hear the encounter at the Jubilee House.
Chiefs, House of Chiefs, we've been everywhere, educating them to use their voices and their position to help in addressing the crisis we face. Key stakeholders engagement across the country. A long list of everybody that matters in Ghana has been engaged in this short period of time. The second is what I talked about. We must completely, overhaul our regulatory regime. And we began by revoking those licenses that were given within that transitional period. And then embark on an aggressive process to review the large scale, small scale. We just finished earlier the small scale mining review. You will be shocked. Processes that should be followed were not followed. It was obvious that you have to be politically connected to get a license. It was very, very clear that if you do not have a political godfather, it will take you years to get a license. It was clear that the MCAS system that should allow everybody in the comfort of his room to see what is going on in the Minerals Commission was not happening. We initially came out with 907 licenses that had problems. But we didn't want to simply revoke the licenses. We gave opportunity to the small-scale miners to come in and show what they have. We've done the complete due diligence, and let me thank the chairman of the review, my able deputy minister, for this effort. I can tell you that the review is almost closed. At least, I'm sure, by next week when we announce it, at least 250 licenses will be revoked. I'm very sure about that one. It is very clear that we need to also review and amend the main Mining Act, Act 703. A lot of provisions there must be tweaked and strengthened. Why is it that those in Accra can just decide, because you are my friend, just get a license? You don't even know Elembele. You can just walk in there, wave your licenses at the chiefs and the local people and tell them that I am coming to take the gold underground, your cocoa, and you have no power. This review includes reforming it and empowering our chiefs and communities in the district areas where the gold is. We are going to form district mining committees to make sure that the recommendation for licenses will first and foremost come from the district, the owners of the resource. We are also going to create avenues for not only medium scale, but small scale, but medium scale. What has happened? Small scale mining is 25 acres. So I go through all this hustle and I get 25 acres. When I finish mining it, I have to go through this lengthy, crazy program. Now I won't go to Accra again. All I have to do is just continue the illegality. How do we create the opportunity for those who have done the right thing to be given medium scale and large scale? As the president has announced, we have been, as Ghanaians, at the back of the bus. We've been in the middle in the mining industry for over 100 years. We think that Ghanaians have reached the point where they can have the commanding heights of the mining sector, as Nkrumah will describe. And when you see the president making the case that when we give you a 30-year mining lease, it is not automatic, that is going to just be given, and that we are going to now move in that direction to empower Ghanaians. This is what the president meant. And so we are doing a lot I'm very happy to tell you that within this 9 months, we've visited every region, we've met every House of Chiefs, we've met the National House of Chiefs. We are almost 90% complete with the reform of the law and the policy, and I believe next year all these amendments will be in place. This is how much we have been working. On regulations, as I've described, we have audited, and I think I've made all these points already. The other important aspect of this fight is, as we are doing the regulations, we need to strengthen enforcement, because it's very clear that it was free for all. Everybody was digging everywhere that there was no tomorrow. And so those recalcitrant people must be dealt with. And so at this point, where it became a free-for-all, everybody was forming a task force. Thanks to the coordination and cooperation of the Minister of Interior and Defense, and I'll talk a bit about it when we get to some point, we have jointly have a coordinated force and established what we call the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operation.
Yes, I have the power to do it. But the president acts on the authority, not only on the authority, on the advice of the National Security Council. And as at now, this moment, the National Security Council believes that we can win the fight against Galamsey without a state of emergency. I want to assure you that the day they advise me otherwise, that, boss, now we need a state of emergency, I will not hesitate in declaring a state of emergency. But we do still think that we have the powers to be able to win this fight. And as we deploy more troops and we apply more resources to the fight, I'm sure that gradually we'll begin to see that we're winning.
Let me begin with the rebel. Kofi?
Yep.
Imani had already said before attending that this was useless. You don't need more talking. You should just do.
Yeah.
But you still attended.
Well, my president attended. It's his prerogative. I put it out that I wasn't going to go. And I was just telling my brother Inusa here, 10 years plus, it's the same place. We were saying the same things. We've talked and talked. I have said all kinds of things, some taken, some not taken well. Look, activity is not the same as progress. We are seeing a lot of activity, a lot of stimulation, a lot of talk, no progress. Galamsey is getting worse, so we don't need more talk, number one. Look, don't look at what people are saying. Look at the ground, and then you will know what is going on. Let me give you an example. Despite all the mountain of talk, when this government came in, nothing or not much has been done in terms of stopping Galamsey, but we have been able to establish Gold Board, pass the law, pass LI, set up the institution, gone onto the ground, start buying gold, and we've mobilized billions of dollars of gold, sold it, and done all kinds of, all within this space, but we have not been able to solve Galamsey. Put it another way, a counterfactual. We have managed to set up systems to harness Galamsey gold, convert it to dollars and stabilize the economy. And we have not been able to stop Galamsey. Activity is not the same as progress. There's a lot of talk, no action, and the action is rather in harnessing Galamsey gold to establish this economy or make it better. In a sense, somebody will say that's good. The president said, after all, in the past, we were not benefiting from it, now we are benefiting from it. I am telling you, I've come to the conclusion, we will not win the Galamsey fight. There is no sincerity in doing that. And look, the experts will tell us, all of us are going to pay a very heavy price for some people's private profit. It is not you and I who have to solve Galamsey. It is the president, his cabinet, his ministers, and the people we have given authority to go and solve it. To me, they don't have any interest in solving it because they think not solving it has better benefits for them politically.
After everything you saw and heard yesterday,
yes,
you still say
that's why I'm telling you, don't watch
interest.
the talk, watch the action. All the things I saw and heard yesterday were what I expected to hear. And I've been hearing them for over 10 years.
Forest reserves.
Oh.
We are told that the EPA, or whichever it is, had to classify as red zones. because their officers could simply not enter. There were armed tags in there. You dare not. We are told that even the military was asked to stay off.
Who asked the military to stay off?
And now, these places have been recovered. You don't see effort that is getting to bringing things under control?
You see, as we speak, there is more Galamsey now than we had yesterday. New equipment have come into this country and have found themselves onto, Galamsey sites. So I say, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of stimulation. Watch the ground. What is happening most in the area of gold in Ghana today is that Galamsey gold is being mobilized effectively, sold and being used to stabilize the economy. All of us are benefiting in that sense. So let's be honest with ourselves. Let's be honest with ourselves. We are doing more to mobilize the gold than to stop the mine.
Yusuf Seni, what you saw, do you have a change of mind? Some of the CSO leaders, you heard them after the encounter, beginning to say, there appears to be a lot of effort, well-intentioned, and if they get the support they need, NIMOS, we will get somewhere.
Well, I came out of the program yesterday hugely satisfied that something was being done, that probably there was a change in approach to the Galamsey fight. And clearly, the president and the government appear to have a strategy, and they are implementing the strategy to the letter. They are also deeply, acutely aware that there are risks. And so the president did not rule out the imposition of a state of emergency. I also was very happy that the president appears to be giving vent to good governance metrics, that every government that intends to carry the people along in implementing a policy like stopping the Galamsey ought to be 1, transparent, 2, accountable, 3, empower government institutions, legal and regulatory or governance institutions, 4, engage stakeholders, and 5, fight corruption within the system. And I clearly could see it. That look, the government says, the president says, yes, I can impose state of emergency. The Constitution mandates me, gives me the authority to do so, but I act on the advice of a state institution. Clearly, given a perspective to the institutional approach of handling matters. And I was happy. He didn't appear to be dictatorial. He didn't also appear to be to act arbitrarily. He appeared to be relying on advice of institutions.
What method, what instrument is being deployed that is new from what we have done over the years, including when you were at the helm?
So when I was, again, let's come back and be honest with ourselves.
Show me what is new.
What is new is simply that, look, the president says, they reclaimed forest reserves. I'm going to station military officers there. I never heard any government say that.
That's
even
not new.
included.
That's not new.
It's new.
Isn't it happening?
Where? Tell me which forest reserve did you have military officers stationed?
Operation Galamsey and the rest, the soldiers were sent in there.
I'm not talking about sending soldiers in. I'm not talking about. I sent soldiers in. General Michaud was the commander of the task force, but they were not stationed there. So the first attempt under even President Dramani Mahama in this second term, they sent soldiers in, they sent police in, and when the police withdrew, the Galamseyers went back. They are telling us that they are going to station them permanently. That's new.
That's new.
It's new.
And that will be more effective.
Look, they are saying that apart from getting them there, we are going to ensure that we begin dechemicalizing our water bodies. We were thinking that we should first of all deal with Galamsey before dechemicalizing our water bodies. But they're saying that we're going to run that simultaneous, and you heard Professor Brown. He said, look, we are talking to the Minister of Finance, and when we get money, we are going to begin to look at that.
Okay.
It's new.
Okay, so Dr. Kwacha Agyemang, having listened to all the people in the room who spoke, the president, the ministers, well, the minister at the helm says this will not be won with the gun. Well, they are not even afraid of the gun, are they? From your, articles I have read. This is Galamsey that used to be punished with 5 years imprisonment. In 2019, we improved the law, and it's punished minimum 15 years in jail.
Yeah.
Minimum. And yet, they are not scared. Tell us your level of satisfaction or not from what you saw.
Thank you very much. The critical issue we need to understand is that Galamsey has transitioned. So for me, as a country, we should not even call it Galamsey, because of the involvement of people who have power, involved people who have money, involved with people who can control decisions, and indeed external influence, which hitherto were not known in the Galamsey space. So, for example, how many people can procure a single excavator? If you do the last count last year based on data available, at least more than 5,000 excavators are in Ghana. And they're not on their roads, they're not in the registered mining companies, but elsewhere working for people who are lining their pockets with proceeds from such particular activities. Thankfully, Goldboy, even though has its own criticisms, has been able to demonstrate that prior to them coming in, substantial amount of resource or money were being filtered through out of Ghana as to who knows where they were passing through. So it establishes that there's a major problem we need to deal with. And the interesting thing is that if people can procure weapons to control or protect their resources and assets in the bush, preventing forestry officials, having agitations and confrontations with military officials who are permitted legally with the police people, is creating a kind of environment where insecurity is beginning to fester and becoming a glaring picture in the environment of Ghana, which hitherto was unknown. So given what was displayed at the presidency, there is some degree of limited hope. I say limited hope because what is new is some of the things that the Honorable Minister has already alluded to. But I don't see any policy framework ready, well established, assessing the command control mechanisms, logistics approaches, because it's going to be very expensive. And we cannot only deploy soldiers without having the sufficient logistics support to work on it. So up front, those things must be clear, as I said, must be transparent, and accountability must also be shared. Until we do that, we'll be going around in circles because there's a whole political incident coming up out of illegal mining now, where at any election cycle, either you are in opposition or you are in government, your language will change in a way. So it's important as a state, we look at it from that comprehensive angle and realize that it is indeed a problem, and that it is not only being perpetrated by Ghanaians, by foreigners who have now gained control over our even political economy.
We'll get you to tell us shortly about the national security implications as far as you are concerned about Galamsey.
Yes, sir.
So, Dr. Imaka,
yes,
from where you sit, you heard we actually asked, the president actually asked somebody to do a presentation about the water levels and spoke about the turbidity, and Kenashikbe and so were questioning him that that's not what we are interested in.
That's true.
And there was another lady doctor who said, look, what you're talking about is not like, it doesn't cut across. So you shouldn't use that, because we have found now that elsewhere that even the turbidity is 90,000 plus NTU, where in 2024 it was 14,000 and we were up in arms. Were you satisfied?
No, I was not. I think the data that was presented was highly biased. It was not a scientific representation of the state of affairs. It was skewed to address a certain political or governance interest. it is not a rigorous scientific presentation. I think the presenter did acknowledge that. First of all, it lacked representativeness. Number two, a lot of envirotoxicochemical indicators were not presented. Okay, we're looking at arsenic, cadmium. We're looking at not just the substrate level, as in the level of these toxicants in water and food systems. We're also looking at exposure levels, taking food samples and assessing them, finding out how much of these toxicants are actually being consumed. And that's where I'm coming to present evidence on that. And please, we should stop using the terminology dechemicalizing. That is wrong. It is completely unscientific. How can you dechemicalize water? River. How can you dechemicalize food or water in this country? Which body of science can dechemicalize water? I was sad, to tell you the truth, when I was listening to people who were supposed to...
But they said that was dechemicalization is doable, except it is expensive. It's preposterous.
H2O, water itself is a chemical. The beneficial chemicals in water, there are very important minerals like iron. I'm talking about, if you look at some of the essential minerals that we are supposed to take, potassium, they are all inside. Are you going to remove them? So I was shocked when the EPA director or whoever she was saying that they would dechemicalize water.
They are in the procurement process. You're saying we are going to throw money away?
I'm not going to assume what she has done or not. But what struck me was that she was just talking politics. She's a political appointee. How can the first point is, as a specialist, head of a national institution, how can you open your mouth? How can you open your mouth? The specialist whom the president relies on and takes, and no wonder, and takes advice, technical advice from you, come and you stand on a national platform and states that you want to dechemicalize water, rivers. It's a shame.
And this is
the president believes
this is ad hominem,
because the president actually referred to her.
This is ad hominem.
When they are going to
doctor, you have no liberty to attack the person.
No. I gave a
no.
I said, look,
this is ad hominem.
This is not ad hominem.
This is title.
This is not argumental ad hominem. This is not argumental ad hominem. I am addressing the issue that the allusion to dechemicalization.
You are not addressing the issue.
Which unfortunately unelected people are actually using.
No, this
it betrays the country.
Where has it?
I'm very loud about this because it is a betrayal.
It's not true.
To every Ghanaian that our experts are not speaking truth to power.
When you say unlettered people are using, what are you talking about?
When I say unlettered,
we put in our water, does it not change it?
No, you see,
is it because the
you can say that you want to detoxicologize our water. You can say you want to decontaminate the water. You can say you want to detoxicant the waters. You can never in all of science say you want to dechemicalize the water.
Oh, I get it.
And what is annoying me most is that
I don't get him.
It's people's lives are at stake.
Okay.
Please,
right.
let me say a caveat. I'm not attacking the specialty of the president's appointee, the EPA director, and all the people.
That is what you have just done.
You did.
That you have just done.
No, I am.
That's just what you have just done.
That's
what you have just done.
The expression of the word dechemicalization is a
you could do that without attacking her.
Hold on.
You could do that without attacking her.
Having made that caveat.
That's what you have done. You are doing. That's what you have done.
Yes.
And you are not a specialist in that area or all areas.
Hold on. He will display his specialty.
Okay.
Yes. Dennis.
That's what you have just done. And I'm surprised.
Yes, Dennis. Some are very, very excited and happy about the manner in which the president is approaching it. There is, if you like, he's bringing everybody on board because this is, a very useful way to go about it. You had as many as 59 plus, civil society organizations that were invited. And he said he wanted frank and constructive dialogue and practical solutions to the problem.
Council, the NDC, I mean, there are a lot of scientists here, so pardon me if I do politics and stick to some of the social issues. The NDC are beginning to get irritated at almost everybody. They are either warning people, threatening people, calling into shows and giving caveat. I think they need to calm down. It's just 9 months. The scientist is basically expressing a scientific...
Don't defend him. Speak to this thing.
Beg your honor.
What kind of life is this?
Go ahead with your
subject. Scientist is expressing a scientific opinion. And even in science, there are a lot of disagreement and variances in views. So he's at liberty to say whatever he's saying. It is up to other opinions to test the view. So please, I'll protect him. I'll protect him here.
You are not the person to do that.
See, a few things have happened in the past few weeks. One, the NDC, and I'm glad, are gaslighting the country, which is drawing a lot of independent-minded people into the conversation. For the past few weeks, we've come to accept, all of us generally, finally, that indeed Galamsey, as we have it today, is an age-long matter. That's how they describe it now. They've stopped describing it as 8-year-old, 8-year-old. The president, fortunately, yesterday never used in the past 8 years. So now I think it's a lot of progress. And I applaud everybody that has been involved in the conversation in the past. There's been some agreement to that it's an age-long.
What has changed and worsened the situation is the kind of machinery. And we are told in 2023, 2024, excavator import was free for all. As much as this 6 billion worth of excavator import we saw in the country.
Today we are getting 200 excavators on daily basis into Ghana, check, at the port. 200 every day. 200 excavators a day in Ghana, I'm telling you, at the port. The last time, the port got so congested that they had to decongest it and move excavators at night. But please don't digress. When I finish there, you can ask me the questions. That is the first way. Number two, I think the past week we've also all come to agree that Galamsey, as we have it, was not going to end simply because Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo and NPP out of office. That impression was created for a very long time that Akufo-Addo himself was mining behind his house in Achim. And immediately you vote him out of office. You have cabinet ministers who actually said it. You vote him out of office, Galamsey will end. Now, the other very important point we all need to agree to is that the NDC and the government as we have today are finally coming to the realization that Galamsey is worsened. The last time when the president met the media and the government communications minister was speaking, he actually had the energy to tell the entire country that if you think Galamsey has worsened, provide evidence. I was shocked. I was shocked when the government minister actually told us that we should provide evidence and proof that Galamsey has worsened. Fortunately, in the past few days, a lot of people have provided proof. And I think finally, that has culminated into the president now saying, shall we meet and have a conversation? My worry with the NDC and how they are treating Galamsey is...
It's your preliminary comment.
Oh, so
I gave each one of you 2 minutes.
So my time is up?
You've done 4 minutes.
So I'll come back?
Yes.
But I can finish?
Finish up.
Great. My worry with the NDC and how they are handling Galamsey is that if we refuse to face the facts and the realities as we are hearing from our retired military man and the scientist and Council Bentil and Co, we'll never get a solution. Because here we are, a government admitting that they are buying about 60% of the gold we are exporting, likely, highly likely, coming from illegal sources. And the president says that, well, this money could have gone to private pockets. It is our own environment they are destroying. And so if we are going to get it, then so be it. For him, that is the first approach. And he said it on TV. Now, if this government comes back to tell us that the only solution that he has in place for us is 9 months, then I hit my head. I said, how? Samson, since 2010, when we saw Galamsey in this manner, when Professor Mills spoke to now, the number one weapon we have utilized in the fight against Galamsey has been the military. That is what it has been. Nothing more, nothing less. And you had this president and this government saying so much when they were in opposition. In fact, the president is on TV having said that it is not wise to use soldier and military after Galamsey. He said it. He said it wasn't wise. And so it's a big betrayal of the country when you are eventually given power and all you do is to use the same old approach that you came to meet, and you're saying we should applaud you. But there's something going on all of us should pay attention to. Because of the deep propaganda this government is running the issue of Galamsey, they keep boxing themselves into a corner. So this is what happened after the event.
And that's what
I was happy. I was happy when the engagement was happening, because I thought that at least for once, this government is allowing himself to accept the reality, and so we'll come up with something. Then the government communications minister comes out of the meeting and says, well, the government says there is progress because stability levels of water sources have improved. When he knows that stability level, sometimes you don't know what stability level is. It's just the shadiness, the color of the water. It has nothing to do with quality of water. It is, this one is more brown, this one is less brown. That's what stability is. So you can actually have a very brown water that is very quality and have a very plain water that is very, very toxic.
Right.
The Water Resources Commission has been tracking the water quality index in this country since 2004.
That's what Ken Ashigbe told them.
With 41 water bodies. Then you have a government that is telling us that you really, really want to fight Galamsey, come to display 6 water bodies and tell us that because their turbidity levels have reduced, why didn't you display 40 water bodies and tell us their turbidity levels at least? Now, let me tell you the challenge.
So he did
the challenge with 9 months. Let me tell you the challenge with 9 months.
Thank you.
My final point.
You need to hold on.
My final point. Challenge with 9 months is that they keep telling us that we are sending soldiers to the forest. Sending soldiers to the forest. Then I ask myself, the Ofin River, the Pra River, the Ayesu River, none of them are being destroyed from the forest. I have been to Upper Dencha East. I was on Dunkwa, on Ofin. I was on River Pra. The road is here. The river is here. Chamfans and excavators are there mining. Openly.
Thank you. Right. Inisa, I can see you are itching to come in. But I need to do something. I want to give you just about a minute's intervention. Then I'll bring in the experts. They'll finish very brief, quick presentations. Then I'll bring you all back again. Kofi has a lot to say. I can see him calibrating and defining things to speak about. Yes, quickly.
First of all, when we sit on programs like this, we speak to educate Ghanaians. There must be a general understanding that no one is the absolute repository of knowledge. You must be humble enough to know that no one is an absolute repository of knowledge. Now, Humpty Dumpty, if you say you are dechemicalizing water, what does it mean? You are taking out chemicals in the water which ought not to be in the water. Simple. No one dechemicalizes water which is potable. No one does that. And when River Ofin and Ankobra and others were not polluted, no one talked about dechemicalization. So unless you are a Humpty Dumpty, you know dechemicalization of water will refer to a certain particular activity that is intended to take hazardous chemicals from the water. That's number one.
Should I believe you or believe the expert?
That's number one. That's how I understood it. I'm not explaining. That's how I understood it. When the professor came to talk, that's how I understood it. And he was communicating for us to understand. 2, when the man came and presented his report on the turbidity levels of certain selected waters, he was honest enough to admit that this test was done in areas that have been cleared of Galamsey, unless you didn't listen. And he was also humble to say that this was not a toxicology report.
What was the point?
He said it.
After he had been challenged.
Yes. So he said it. When he started his presentation, he said, look, it's about turbidity, and explained what turbidity means.
Yes,
it's not about turbidity.
Okay. Please, I'm talking. If you are attacking somebody's professional
So now let's do this, gentlemen.
And you are not honest with the attack.
Now let's do this. We are going to do a very brief thing.
It's a different thing to say that
we're going to do
not
a very brief thing. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No, I deprecate
yes, thank you. Now, Dr. Imaka, let's hear from you. Very brief. He's going to make the point, a compelling point to us about where we are all being poisoned and why there's no excuse not to trigger a state of emergency. Please, the floor is yours. This is Newsfile. It's still your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here at Newsfile, we always put Ghana first. I heard one of my guests earlier talking about the class of people and the quality of people who watch this show. We are clearly aware. I have been through the country the whole of the last 3 weeks, and it's like almost all discerning people watch this show. I'm telling you, and we're happy about that. That's why we bring the best to help you. Are you ready now?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It is a privilege and an honor to make my expertise available to inform current debate about Galamsey. And I want to humbly state that I do this with passion, not to spite people, but I have seen the ravages of cancer. I have seen the effect of what this toxicity can do to people. And if you tell me there are families out there who are suffering on account of this, and you will see in the presentation that Samson has done that. So first of all, there are a lot of models about cancer. We've got logistic, regressional models, several models. WHO, EPA, FDA, I'm talking about the US parallels of what we have in Ghana, use this model that I'm going to use to explain the prevalence of this exposure and how it affects all of us. The first one is that there is what we refer to as the single hit model of carcinogenesis. Now, the core principle is that a single molecular hit to a DNA from a genotoxic agent can initiate cancer. Okay, a single exposure to, and I'm using arsenic.
A single molecular hit.
Exactly.
To your DNA.
Yes. Yes. A single one. Now, there's a mathematical model here I would have shown, but it's not projected. I'm giving it to the producer. So
yes, I'm sure they're working on it. Production, kindly project this quickly for us. Yes, go on. You just go on. Ask
So exposure, therefore, is directly proportional to the dose with a non-zero threshold. Okay. The second point is that arsenic binds to sulfhydryl groups and substitutes phosphates in the DNA. That's because arsenic and phosphorus have similar properties, chemical properties. So that is where it begins to attack. It induces oxidative stress. For example, some DNA strands can break. There are different forms of that breakages or mutation that can occur. And so when it happens on a gene suppressor, for example, TP53 or KRAS, then it can easily escalate into a permanent mutation. It can easily escalate into a permanent mutation. On account of that, for genotoxins, we prefer not to have any benchmark. We don't have any threshold on account of that. So that is, if a toxicant, a contaminant is a genotoxin, then it is not supposed to have a regulatory threshold. So all attempts, we use what we call as low as possible, as low as practicable, in order to reduce it. That is because a single molecule is likely to induce carcinogenesis. Now, at the population level, a lot of, as for Bangladesh and Taiwan, those countries, this theory or this model has been validated. And so we refer to it as the linear risk because exposure to the toxicant is linear. The more you are exposed to it, the higher the mutagenicity or the incidence of cancer is likely to occur. For the case of arsenic, you have skin, bladder, lungs. There's a continuous risk. And so this model is also referred to as linear non-threshold model. Linear non-threshold model. We have what we refer to as potency factor. All toxicants, especially genotoxic substances, have a potency factor, and values are given to them. So we multiply the potency factor by the exposure exposure level in order to quantify the magnitude of risk according to US, EPA, EFSA, WHO standards. Now, the policy implication is that there should be, as far as possible, a zero exposure. What it means is that every single exposure is likely to escalate the risk that any person is exposed to. Now, we did a study in the Volta region, KGB, and published it. And we had some interesting. I use this as an example because it is supposed from the listening I have done that in the Volta region there is no Galamsey.
Right.
So we went to the place and picked up some baby food samples. And Charlie, look at what we are seeing.
In Volta.
Okay, in the Volta region, KGB, we picked, I don't want to mention the brand name so that we will destroy people's business. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to inform the debate. And the argument here is that, look, you may not be in a Galamsey zone, but the food supply chain runs throughout the whole country. So if you are in Accra, you source your food from a Galamsey area because we don't do intensive agriculture, so to speak.
You refer to KGB in the Uti region?
Yeah, okay. Yes. The food, we have the pockets where Galamsey is hotspotted are the very pockets that we have high agricultural productivity. So we have our wholesalers and bulkers going to these rural areas to bring food for those of us in the urban centers to eat. And that is where you are not spared. If you are in Accra, you are in Kumasi, or you are in any urban center, and you are eating and drinking water, you are putting yourself at risk because Galamsey goes into the food and then it is brought to the cities for you to eat. So we found quite significant.
Well, already they can't treat our water.
Exactly.
Okay, you go.
When it comes to the water systems, in fact, I have pictures of, I'm in Winneba. Every single day, senior members, community members are all drinking brown water consistently. Today, yesterday, every day. And you see, the rich people can afford to dig their own wells, get their own, friends say, solar energy, and do their own process plants in their house. You and I cannot do that. We have one Ghana, and they can afford to buy bottled water, Avian, etc. But we can't afford to do that. And that is what is making me very passionate about this advocacy. Okay. Continuing with that. So we found very significant levels. I wouldn't spend too much time. It has been projected. We saw exposure levels to be very significant. We found health risk levels also to be very significant. For a toxicant that is supposed to have
Are you
no
still
threshold.
Talking about the non-Galamsey areas, or now you're talking about?
Yeah, I have switched to the slides. Okay. Before I was expatiating on how if you are not in a Galamsey zone, you are still at risk.
That's right.
Because you source your food from areas our food baskets where Galamsey is grown. So when the food comes, the crops uptake these toxicants and they stay in it. And the funny thing is that it bioaccumulates in you. The more, every time you are eating, it is the levels of these toxicants are building up in you. So that is the argument. And then for water systems, our processing plants have already failed us. In Winneba, where I work and live, we have never had clean water for only God knows how long. Since last year up to now, we have never had. All the water we drink is brown. And it is exposing children, school children, the next generation. So the argument here I am making is that Galamsey, for example, arsenic leaches into rivers, soils, and fish. Now, another thing too associated with that, exposure is multiple. First, we have ingestion. You drink water, you eat contaminated food. Then also you have inhalation.
All right.
When dust that contains these toxic.
That's some 10 minutes, and I need you to.
Yes, our breath. It is also responsible for. It's also an exposure route. Then we have derma. This one is particularly important for our youth who are in the river bodies mining Galamsey. Their skin is exposed to these toxicants, and it can generate a lot of damage for them. So what we are calling for here is that we can see that there is an existential threat on the water that we drink. 2, the food that we eat, and even now the air that we are breathing. Article 31, Clause 9 of the Constitution says that when there is an existential threat to the life of the community, the president is mandated to use the legal tools of a state of emergency to help this. Now, I want to tie this in with the law. Just 1 second. You see, when a community is at risk, the president is supposed to address it. But when the operations of Galamsey involve armed operators, and a lot of Operation Hit, Operation Vanguard, all kinds of operations have come and gone. Now, the reason why a state of emergency is invoked, Samson, is that it gives the president the powers to be efficient whilst protecting human rights.
Okay.
But if, for example, this campaign that is being rolled out, very soon you will see human rights infringements will come to the fore. That is because the current operations that has been deployed by the Minister of Interior, it operates under the normal tools of governance that the Constitution has given. So it is easy to trigger human rights infringements. And when people bring it against you, they will succeed. Okay. So the framers of the Constitution foresaw this. That when, and you see, the state of emergency as defined by Article 31 does not call for the president to call for a nationwide state of emergency. Look at the hotspot areas.
Right. Targeted. Right.
Target them.
Okay. Thank you.
So that, please give me a second. So the advocate, what we are calling for is that a state of emergency will give the president reprieve, the legal environment for the president to first of all halt the activities of these armed racketeers.
Right. Okay.
Then recovery, livelihood interventions can effectively be deployed.
All right.
I am happy about the fact that.
Thank you, Dr. Ekpo Enyima Aka, food science and technology, food quality management, agriculture, also chemistry, education, project management. I'm just reading some of the stuff that he has accomplished and currently lecturing in this area. And his contention is very clear that Galamsey, by depriving millions of Ghanaians of potable water, safe food and health through widespread heavy metal contamination and carcinogenic risk consistent with the single hit model of carcinogenesis, and by undermining public safety through armed resistance, satisfies the threshold under Article 30(1)(9) of the 1992 Constitution as an existential threat that warrants the urgent declaration of a state of emergency subject to constitutional safeguards to pave the way for successful livelihoods, mitigative and restorative measures. Thank you very much. We'll hear from Major Retired Dr. Ebenezer Kwache Ajiman, who brings in the national security implications. And then I'll bring all my guests back on the table. But because of what Ekpo just spoke about, the International Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA Ghana, have issued a statement, and they call it an open letter to the president. And they are saying that women are at most risk of the Galamsey menace. They say the Galamsey menace is more insidious than the COVID-19 pandemic, during which crisis, safeguards such as quarantines, lockdowns, remote work, school closure, vaccination, and other things were implemented. They say Galamsey may not be contagious, but its long-term effects on health, the environment, and livelihoods are equally destructive. While the impact of Galamsey is nationwide, women bear its heaviest burden. Women who fetch water for households, farm food crops, process and trade in food and fish, or work and sell along agricultural and gold value chains are directly endangered by the toxic chemicals used in small-scale mining. Then they talk about all the evidences that have been shown, including by Professor Sampini, about the adverse effects of the Galamsey on fertility, women's reproductive health, fetal and child cognitive development, mercury and cyanide contamination that threaten not only health, but also the very food security of the nation. And they mention a lot of things and make a demand of the president to declare a state of emergency. They are asking that the Food and Drugs Authority should take action to identify and warn against or ban and recall and destroy local produce, as well as bottled and sachet water found to be contaminated. What they are suggesting is far-reaching. They are asking the Ministry of Health to also urgently provide clear nationwide guidance on how citizens can protect themselves from exposure to heavy metals in food and water, among other things. And the president of FIDA, Gloria Oforibuedu, signed that. So we'll go to Major Retired, but before we do that, Ekpo, what you said earlier, this is Atabadu. He says that as a management scientist, we know that science follows a structured approach to data collection and analysis to arrive at conclusions. Water is a chemical compound made up of two molecules of hydrogen and one molecule of oxygen. Hence, water is referred to as H2O in chemistry. These two are not the only molecular compounds found in water. As you see from, he sent me the label on water bottle that we drink. It says, as you see from the label, there are about 5 more. Depending on social impacts like agriculture, other chemicals can be introduced through indirect means like leaching into water bodies. Therefore, mining is not the only source of water pollution. Mining has become an issue because it is a direct source of pollution. Now here, it is scientifically impossible to dechemicalize I would like to see the mathematical equation that explains it, supporting ECHO that you cannot dechemicalize water. We will be right back. Newsfile is your most authoritative news analysis platform. How I wish that even the break was projected, because there was such good and enriching debate during the break. And Major Adman will give us just about 5 minutes of the, national security implications of Galamsey, and he will answer the question whether he also thinks that we have gotten to that point, like ECHO, Dr. Imani Africa says, for a state of emergency. A friend of mine sends a message who says that water itself is a chemical compound, so dechemicalizing it doesn't quite make sense in a literal way. Okay, well, the EPA boss, Professor Brown Kluche, joins us. Thank you for your time, madam.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So as we understand, in Ghana, we know that procurement normally brings some problems. You are going to procure what to dechemicalize our water?
Thank you, and good morning to your viewers. Yeah, so I think this is in reference to what I said yesterday at the program at the Jubilee House. So I was trying to explain that we are in a process of procuring nanoparticle liquid that we use to clean our water bodies. So what is the problem with procurement, you're asking?
We are being told that to say that you are going to dechemicalize the water is scientifically incorrect.
So, okay. I said it. We have tested it in the lab. Is it the chemical that is not correct, or the chemicalizing the water bodies? I don't understand what is not correct about it. We are in a technology age. I'm a physicist. We have seen nano liquid that we can use to treat our water bodies or treat water in general. So this liquid separates water from every other thing, which means that it will separate water from heavy metal that we are battling with. It will separate water from bacteria. It will separate water from microbes, every other thing. We have only water left, and that is what we want to have in the country. So with the polluted water bodies that we have, once we have this nano liquid, we apply them in the water bodies, and then we have our water clean, safe, and back for use for the citizens of Ghana. I don't know what is not possible or what is scientifically incorrect about this. It's simple. We just spray the liquid in the water bodies. We get our water back to its normal state.
Okay. Prof, listen to Dr. Imani Africa. Did you hear her? Are you okay with the explanation now?
Thank you very much, Prof. I have respect for your pedigree as an intellectual. However, I take issue with the expression to dechemicalize water. I don't know which authority you will want to cite as having to use the expression dechemicalization of water.
Thank you. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it. So the issue is the phrase or the process. So if we say dechemicalize, we are talking about the fact that we have heavy metals, which are chemicals in our water body. And to please, once get our back corruption, that is what I do.
Okay. Beyond that, Kofi Bento has a question for you.
I did geography, so I don't claim to be an expert, but I just know a little. I know that rivers flow, and in rainy seasons, they carry particles in solution. So the minerals and etc. are in and they flow into the sea. The places where water is treated are water and sewage plants and all those other places. I don't know how a river that is flowing can be, one, dechemicalized, and two, how your nanoparticles arrangement thing can deal with the arsenic and mercury and other such things that are in the river. I however, know that if the mining is stopped, the river will flow and renew itself in 5 years.
It's true.
Now, putting whatever in that flowing river does not, in the sense of what you're saying, dechemicalize it or even detoxify it. And when the meeting was held, I heard that they were discussing turbidity. I know turbidity is a benign subset of toxicity. Toxicity in water is a very broad concept. You can have very clear water that is not turbid but is toxic. So I don't know why you elect to take out all the issues of toxicity, but you discuss turbidity alone. You can have water that is brown but it is clean. And a simple filtration through a sun filter will make it sufficiently clean and potable. So I don't know how the scientists chose to discuss the benign subset of turbidity when the broader issue of toxicity is there. My question is, how does your spraying of the nanoparticles, etc., treat a flowing river, which, if it is polluted again, will become polluted again? But if it stops, you don't need to spray anything.
Left to you, we should channel the money to stopping the Galamsey.
Absolutely.
Then the
and
water
the river
by itself naturally
will recover.
In 5 years will recover.
Yes.
Samson, the issue here is to focus the investment in making sure the infrastructure for water treatment is efficacious.
That is Ghana Water and Sewage.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You see, look, and please let me also highlight the issue.
She's been asked some questions. She needs to respond.
It's in relation with what my senior here mentioned. You see, when you dechemicalize, so-called, per what he has defined,
Detoxify.
it means that you're going to take away both the essential minerals that are required by consumers, along with the toxicants that are in the water that you are referring
Point
to.
made.
So we should find a way to differentiate. That's what I did my PhD on. That how do we differentiate? How do we?
What you discussed with us is published in the American Journal, right?
Yes.
Thank you. I think we can end here. Yes, Prof.
Yes, sir. Something. So we have actually received a number of proposals of technologies that we can use to clean our water bodies. And the particular one I'm talking about, copper-based nanoparticle level. So that one, once used to clean the water,
river.
The test is like how we have our water with earthen pot, the plant. So it still has the minerals that drink in our water body or in our drink.
So you are going to throw chemicals into the running river, is that it?
Yes, it's not every chemical that is that is poisonous. Like copper in a certain level, the body needs it. Magnesium at that level.
I have a difficulty understanding that you throw the chemical into water that is running, and it's raining also, and the water, can take the chemicals away, isn't it?
Yes, so what I said earlier was this chemical will separate water from every other thing. The heavy metals in the water body also can move with the water from wherever it's being polluted to other places
to the sea.
That system needs
hold on.
Water. So we need to start. We need to engineer the way we apply the water. So we target
treatment happens with captured
pollutants, and then the water throw it all the way down at different stages of the river and stuff.
Prof, with the feedback, I know you are a climatologist. With the feedback you are getting, would you want to reconsider this approach?
So, no, I mean, I want to understand the difficulty in their understanding of the method.
Water is captured before it is treated.
Because we have tested it in the lab.
Yeah.
We know it's doable. We have drank the water treated with these fluids myself.
Water is stagnant.
Yes, you see, the commonsensical way to put it, Kofi is asking, you don't capture the water and you are treating it. How is that?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, that applying it is a different method altogether. What I said yesterday is the solution that we have. Its application is another topic altogether. So they can't say it's not doable or it doesn't make sense here. We apply it upstream at sections of the river body to achieve the result that we want to achieve.
Did you say you have tried it?
Say again?
Did you say you have tried it?
No, I said that we have done it in the lab. So
in
for
the
the
lab.
Purification, we are sure.
Yes, in the lab, the water you are dealing with is sitting at one point.
Yeah, I understand this completely. So what I'm saying is that at first the discussion is about the liquid that we are going to use. So if it's about the application on the field, it's a different topic altogether.
Okay.
It needs some engineering. I didn't know that is what we are talking about. But if that's what we are talking about, application is a different engineering altogether.
All right. Professor Nana Ama Brown-Cloutier, thank you very much, CEO of the Environmental Protection Authority. Thank you very much for joining us. Do I have Major do his 5 minutes because I bring all of you in, or the way you were all itching to say something before? Okay, so what are the security implications? Yeah, okay. He's doing 5 minutes.
There's no 5 minutes.
There is.
We are going to go beyond 12.
Yeah, we are ending at 12:30. Yes, please go on.
Thank you. The problem we have with the national security implication is that, number one, geologically, Ghana's mineral deposit also coincide with agricultural mining land space. So it means that any mining activity also necessarily impacts or conflicts agricultural space.
Eko said earlier, where mining goes on, that's where we get our food.
Yes. So that's number one. Number two is that there's a high infiltration of non-nationals into our space in arms. Again, as I indicated earlier, high procurement of weapons. And under transnational national crime environment, there needs to be planning, leadership, hierarchy of influence, and division of labor and all. And given our experience in the field, we can talk about 15 or 16 parameters, which makes this issue very, very serious. Number one is that there's a minimal high use of machinery, and that's we've established that. Some fines,
excavators.
Now, most of them are not even manufactured in Ghana. So how are they coming in? We need to look at that. Number two is that they are not adhering to any statutory regulatory authority. And they are also alien to the payment of taxes. They don't want to hear. There's a high connivance or blessing of responsible officials, including people in the political space. And we would gather that even some pastors in Ghana now are into illegal mining.
Yes.
And they don't have the interest to register. The other one is the negative implication on their health, their safety, and the even social environment. Prostitution, gambling, alcoholism, drug intake is now coming up. And again, they are also not paying anything to government, and they are also coming up with what we discovered to be the capacity to control their space, including administrative violence, including threat of death. Yes. Which is very, very important for us to understand. So the typical artisanal small-scale mine that we used to know had transitioned into a political space. Now the other danger is that all these people that we are talking about, how do they sell their proceeds? Now let's come back to how they lease equipment. Some of the equipment are leased to most of the people working, and they are most owned by people who are not Ghanaians. Interestingly, we found some degree of barter trade in the field, where instead of you paying them the money, they will come for great equivalent of what you have processed as payment for whatever arrangement they had done with you prior. The other one we need to understand also is this. As the soldiers and the military personnel and the resources have been employed, there's a high incidence of people, as indicated earlier, having what we call human rights abuses, and also possible leakages. Interestingly, Honorable, some of the people illegal money now are now attempting to enter into the political space.
They have entered. They have
entered very much.
They've been funding.
They've been funding
political parties.
Some are minors. And some of them are minors.
Yes.
So the danger is that as soon as you get these people enter into the political space, then the country is almost finished.
Yes.
So if you send regulations that is supposed or intended to stop their activity, then there's a likelihood that either it's delayed, or it will not be considered, or it will be frustrated. So these things come together for us to understand that the people are the ones that we are supposed to take care of. Everything we do is supposed to kneel to their benefit, their welfare, and their development. So any little thing that we do in this space now that compromises our health, our development, and our sustenance must be clustered as such. And first, as a national security, we must note that. Then the second point is that based on all the parameters you have seen, it is no more an internal national security, it's a transnational organized criminal enterprise, which Ghana has accepted.
Professor P.J. Tuya of the University of Ghana and his students said this in 2023 on this show, repeated it in 2024, and okay.
Yes.
Please.
So interestingly, it is there that the parameters and the crisis are there. Yeah. Now, when you bring in the transnational organized criminal enterprise parameter, you don't need any law again, because the Financial Action Task Force regulations are there for you to imply in prosecuting the case. In that case, the punishment will be more punitive than what is prevailing of a maximum of 25 years. It goes beyond you tracing the equipment or their resources assets procured out of that criminality. The state can confiscate. The state can also rope in and bring international teams to support them to do external investigations.
Do I hear you say, if arrests are made, you shouldn't treat them as, punishing or prosecuting Galamsey?
No. But prosecuting transnational organized crime.
Okay.
In that case, the state has a wider latitude to apply both local and international regulations, supported by other international entities, even to follow the money or the procurement or deposits done outside this country. So that makes it relatively easier for us to prosecute, and the punishment will be more punitive and also may.
But so far, we have been catching the small fishes. Yeah. The president called them boys.
Yes.
Around it.
That's the reason why the law must change. The interesting thing is that when you catch the small fishes, their managers or their principals will pass through the back door. If you're supposed to be given what they call it bail, within the 48-hour caveat, they will pay the bill and they'll go back to the field. So that's how there's a high recidivism in the illegal mining environment. So if you apply the transnational organized criminal activity, then you can follow. Then resources can be applied. Then the state can have the latitude to deal with it as we stand today.
You touched on something that the Attorney General was concerned about yesterday, that they arrest them, they take them to the court, they are quickly granted bail, they go back to repeat what they are doing whilst they are on bail. So he instructed that we arrest them as a new offense, and then let's find a way to get our judges not to be quick to grant them bail.
The issue is this. In some parts of this country, especially in the new regions, some of them even have Attorney General's office. Secondly, except for the last review, it was only High Court that could try illegal mining cases, but now divisional courts can do so. The other problem with illegal mining cases is that you must prove it. Proving illegal mining is very, very difficult because, one, the product the person is holding must be sent for assay. Who pays for the assay? Again, chain of custody, sometimes it is distorted. And all these things become difficult for the typical Ghanaian prosecutor to be able to do that successfully. That's why sometimes we see more of the granting of the bail.
So from what you have seen from your study, which I have read, are we at a place of a state of emergency?
Yes, I think that we should look at the issue. Number one, we are all agreed that our water bodies have almost 60% polluted. Again, some, I would say, control zones in forest has been. So for me, the state of emergency must be incremental. Beginning with the areas we deem fit right for now, must all water bodies, emergency must be declared. Then all areas that are protected, especially forest areas, emergency must be declared. Because as soon as you state blanket state of emergency without a footprint, there's a high occurrence that the people may go back. So given our resources, given the personnel strength and the facilities available to us, water bodies and protected zones must be declared.
Thank you.
That we can push from there.
Kofi, why do you think the national security is not advising the president this way?
I am not sure why, but I am worried about the kind of pronouncements we are getting out of the experts. Because I think national security should be speaking to the experts, and then the experts should be advising, and then we know where to go. So if you take Madam from EPA, for instance, we can excuse her use of the term, de-chemicalize, yeah, because there's nothing like that, especially in this context. And Ken Ashigbe also mentioned that the scientists who came to make the presentation clearly selected the irrelevant areas to make a presentation on. That's a mistake, okay? And if Madam says that something has worked in a lab, I can say with my BA in geography that it will not work in a river, all right? So there is therefore a problem with the experts and what they are saying. And I worry also, in analysis, you can also always question motives when you come to policy making. Here we are moving in a certain direction, and clearly you can hear the connection to procurement already. And that is worrying. So as an analyst, I can tell you that, hey, I'm seeing the signs. Somebody is going to convert this problem into a procurement opportunity, and we're going to buy all kinds of things, throw them in the river, and then nothing happens. And then you see the national security people. Major has just said something which I have been saying for more than a year now, that this is the same structure that led to the collapse of Liberia and Sierra Leone. What you have here, what he said is that what you are seeing in the Galamsey areas is exactly what you see with the formation of rebel groups. It's a huge national security issue. And we've seen some of these Galamsey people overpower military people. So we really need to take it seriously. See, at the end of the day, there is also this transition that is going on, and nobody's speaking about it. I've said it before, I'm going to repeat. Today, as we speak, I hear President Mahama actually mention it, that there is a Galamsey economy of about 4 million people. I said it somewhere, and then somebody said President Mahama has mentioned it.
Yes.
Now, we have also detected that...
It was either the minister who mentioned 4 million people are involved.
In the Galamsey economy.
In the small-scale mining sector.
So you let me make my point.
Yes, 4 million people in the small-scale mining sector, which contributes 52% of our gold
but when you say that, I say, oh, that includes illegal mining.
Right.
And illegal mining is about 85 to 90% of small-scale mining.
Thank you. You see all this English?
Yes.
Say that again.
Illegal mining component or small-scale mining entities in Ghana here is between 85 and 90%.
Then there's no small-scale mining.
Thank you. So you see, because of the shortness of time, we can't explain all these things. So I'll say, we call it the Galamsey economy. Somebody will say, no, it's small-scale mining. Major has just told you it's 85%. We are saying this Galamsey economy supports 4 million people. It has just been confirmed here. These 4 million people, their lives depend on it. Because of that, you have a situation where the locals have stopped the fight against Galamsey. They have made peace with Galamsey. Galamsey is giving them more money than cocoa farming. It's giving them more money than their, by-day farming. Because of that, Galamsey has essentially become an elite fight. We in Accra and other urban centers are now having to bear this because we know all the things being said around here. It's killing them, but they don't care anymore because it is feeding them. Samson, it's a major problem. Why? Why? Because the people you're trying to save now will start fighting you. And this is how it also affects votes and co. For me, so many things can be spoken about, and I have all the notes here, but I say this is where the problem now is, and we should start thinking very seriously about it. I have said and I repeat that the government has been able to do gold, but the government promising the repeal did not do the repeal. We have seen hundreds, if not thousands.
Now it will repeal from the 14th of October.
Has not done it yet.
Will be put in Parliament.
And I'm telling you, watch the action and not the talk. However, we are doing a lot of mobilization of gold. What I see is not a fight. I see an arrangement that is taking advantage of... I'm not going to talk about enabling. I'm seeing the taking of advantage of a bad situation, and we're going to pay for it. Now, in the US, they have what they call RICO laws, racketeering laws. We know that Galamsey is racketeering.
Sure.
We need to have RICO laws. What Chief is saying here is that when you have laws that assume a civil arrangement, then you have a civil base to arrest them, prosecute them ordinarily. But when you have a situation where the people have essentially become an enclave unto themselves with a political arrangement with arms, they can absolutely determine what goes on there. You are not dealing with a civil arrangement anymore. I sat here and said this thing again, that it has now transited from something that ordinary prosecutors can deal with. We should start thinking about more serious things. You see, when the politicians are confronted with these things, they look at, oh God, this is a big problem. And then they run away and try to do the little things which are cosmetic, which is why we haven't solved Galamsey up to today. Look, I don't think we will solve Galamsey.
You're repeating this?
Yes, I've said it over and over. Why? Because I don't see...
When you say you don't think we can solve Galamsey, we will solve it, you are saying that we are doomed.
I'm saying, given the present kinds of actions we are taking, and when I talk about action, the action of the president, his cabinet, and the leaders in this country, it is not for you and me to solve. So, if you can see, if they accept the kind of challenge that we have, and you see them making the necessary move.
You had Kanalboa leading the Naimos, and giving them all the warnings, so serious about it, and telling them they are coming for them, and they have actually arrested some of them, and they'll continue. Said the kingpins, they'll smoke them out.
The kingpins are sitting in Accra in air-conditioned offices. They are not on the chamfans and things in the bush. All right? The kingpins are doing LCs and importing. Ghana is the highest importer of excavators in West Africa. Importing millions of dollars worth of excavators into this country.
We have so much at our port that there was no space.
And they had to clear them. And trust me, they've cleared them to the national security, whatever. After a while, they will not be there. When you see the kind of way we are fighting it, you will come to my conclusion that we won't solve it. Listen, I've made a number of proposals. And I'm giving you one example. Why wouldn't they do it? Excavators are weapons of mass destruction. In Ghana, that has been true for the last 20 years. So, just like we color taxis yellow.
Contractors need them.
Contractors are...
civil engineers.
Contractors use only a small subset of excavators in Ghana today. So, excavators, as a matter of fact, are weapons of mass environmental destruction.
That's what we should declare them to be.
Yes. And I'm telling you, we have laws that say taxis should be sprayed yellow on the fender. So we identify them. I have made a proposal. If our president and his cabinet and his ministers are serious, every excavator should be colored bright red. And numbers should be printed on them so you can see them from a helicopter.
They've started now giving them numbers as the DVA.
They used to have electronic trackers on them, which means they knew where the excavators were and they knew they were doing Galamsey, but it still went on. So I'm saying the kind of things...
So the electronic trackers that the president and the minister are talking about...
Yeah. They are not working. They are not working. Which is why I'm saying, let me see you do paint them bright red. Okay, everybody sees it. It is okay, this is and put all excavators under the control of national security. What does it mean? Wherever you see an excavator, it is national security that has allowed it to be there. All right? Okay. And if it is not in the right places, so something, my point is, if you see, look at the action, not the talk. I've said it over and over today. Look at the action, not the talk. Okay. And please, let's avert our minds to the fact that since our people have made peace with Galamsey, if we don't take care, they will start fighting the states. Then we will know we have a problem.
I'm taking a quick break, and the last break. When I return, Dennis Inus of Sini will hear what they have to say, and then the last, concluding comments from our two experts. We'll be right back. This Newsfile is your most authoritative news analysis platform.